Welcome to Becoming Untriggered, a podcast brought to you by psychodynamic coaches and parents of three, Lavinia Brown and Andrew Lynn.
Together we normalise and unpack common challenges faced by couples and parents, explore how these could be symptoms of unprocessed trauma, and support you with the tried and tested tools for you to show up as the mum or dad, partner, and person you deserve to be. Welcome to Becoming Untriggered podcast. Today we're looking at narcissism. Are you in a relationship with a narcissist? Is your child a narcissist? Could you perhaps be a narcissist? We're going to look at whether that even matters and how to navigate relationships with narcissists, whether those are your parents, partners, children, or yourself.
We've come across narcissists in our life. Some of our clients turn up with some of these characteristics. But also a lot of our clients think that they're either their parents or their partners are narcissists. And it often comes out when you're in the process of healing, because that's when a lot of the truth comes out from your own perspective. So let's talk a little bit about the characteristics of narcissists, because I think a very popular Google search term is my partner a narcissist? And there are certain definitions, official definitions of narcissism, but these are the kind of characteristics that we find.
There are two really obvious ones. Number one, it's someone that is completely dependent on attention, positive attention, but it could also be negative attention. But basically, they need to be the center of someone else's attention. Number one. Number two, they will stop at nothing to get that attention. And when they don't get it, they turn nasty. There are several things that they do. But I would say, number one, they need attention. They feed off it. They are not happy. I mean, they're not necessarily happy when they do get the attention. That attention doesn't last very long. As we were talking earlier, it seems to be a kind of insatiable need for attention. But the fact is, I think what defines a narcissist as opposed to someone who's just selfish is this need. And when this need isn't met, they turn nasty. They will do whatever it takes. And that means completely disregarding other people's needs and wants in order to get that attention.
There's obviously a lot of characteristics that cross over many people, and we've all got a bit of selfishness. We've all can act in self-interest. But what makes narcissists different is that they are so empty, so void of self-love, that pretty much every action in their life is focused around trying to fill that hole. Yeah, they might do something for you, but it will be conditional on getting something. And every interaction, even if it's someone in a shop somewhere, that conflict or that interaction with them will be based on them getting some attention. So the whole life, the whole framework is focused around their needs being met.
I think they feed off it. It's literally like an energetic need. They need that energy coming from the other person, whoever that is, whether that's a partner or a child. They need that energy to feel okay. Let's not forget why this arises. I mean, it's really tragic. Everyone bashes narcissism, but narcissism is an extreme result of extreme trauma and abuse and ultimately neglect. Usually these people have been neglected emotionally to a really, really bad degree. So they are empty. Their need is so great because the abuse and the neglect was so great at a time that their brain was developing, that their brain has developed in a way that it can't be rectified now. And I think maybe that's the key difference with our clients and narcissists. To a certain degree, especially if you've had a parent that's narcissist, like me, you are going to be very needy. But that need and that capacity to attach securely can be done later in life. So that's what I teach my clients to do through a secure attachment with their inner parent. Their inner parent is unconditionally loving, always there for them. And that reprograms, it resets, it reframes any insecure attachment that they would have experienced as a child. A narcissist can't do that. There is no accountability, no even awareness no possibility of accepting that they may be more selfish than usual. And so they can't even receive love from an inner parent. They're not even willing to do the work.
I mean, the way it turns up for me is it's almost like this black hole where any love, any attention just goes in and gets eaten up. It doesn't even touch the sides. Like you said, there's an insatiable need for attention, but it's never gonna satisfy that need.
So then they keep creating the problems that get them to get attention.
Yeah, any attention. If you're not getting love and attention right there, then there'll be conflict. We've talked about this before. There might be illness, like there'll be something that comes up in their unconscious to get attention.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the ways in which they turn on you, because I think that's really crucial to understanding the difference between selfish and narcissism. In my perspective, they will stop at nothing. You've touched on illness. Yeah, and it can be very difficult to believe that this is even possible. But I've had enough experience myself and seen this with other clients that people can make themselves ill. And I know it sounds absolutely crazy, but ill to a really serious degree. It's not just an eye infection or a UTI or flu. It can go as far as, at least in my parents' example, my mother had a heart attack. Her heart literally stopped. That is the degree to which she was dependent on my energy.
The other thing is manipulation of people. People can play games and play people off against each other. So often if you're in front of a narcissist, they will be your friend. They will offer things to you. They will do anything when you're in front of them to get your attention and love. But then when you're out the room and somebody else is in front of them, then you're surplus to requirements and you're the bad person then. And they'll often use the person that's in front of them and they'll divide. Because again, unconsciously, they want that love. They need that love and attention from that person that's in front of them.
Yeah,
so it's very dangerous to not be with a narcissist at all times.
Well, there's no loyalty.
There's zero
the loyalty is to the energy, not to who it's coming from.
Yeah.
So they don't understand connection. They don't understand attachment. There is no attachment. The attachment is purely in the moment. So we've talked about illness. We've talked about manipulation. This often comes up if you've got a parent who is narcissistic. They might well play different siblings off against each other. Competition, trying to create this sense of less than, that you need to be better in order to be worthy of their attention, which, like you said, it's insatiable. So you'll never get the attention, so you'll never be better. So it's very damaging. If they're not getting their needs met through manipulation or being ill, then they might become very mean. So really putting you down, really being nasty, bringing up old things that you've done, lying about things that you've done. And this is kind of another point, making shit up. I think a lot of narcissists are so needy. And I really want to emphasize, I know it's not fun being around narcissists. I've had a lot of experience. But I do have a lot of compassion there, actually, because you can kind of see what they're trying to do. And they often have stories. They have stories that are completely made up and skewed to their point of view, them being the downtrodden, neglected person that they are, which, yes, might be true. They were neglected as a child, but it's not always true in any way now. And yet that story perpetuates. And often what you did that was nice and helpful is then portrayed as unhelpful, unkind, wrong. So they will completely twist what happened and make out that you need to do more because actually what you did last time was wrong or not enough or led to their unhappiness in some way. The person on the end of that, be it a parent or a partner, can start to feel like they're losing touch with reality because the narcissist's sense of what happened is so skewed. It's almost unbelievable. And yet they're so attached to it and so strong and very good at arguing points often that it can really feel like you're going mad. And that's one of their skills.
That's the whole gaslighting thing that's, again, been very popular recently. Yeah, that comes from two people living the same reality but interpreting it different through their trauma, really.
Bearing in mind that no two-person's sense of reality is the same. Everyone has their own truth. And yet these two versions can be so utterly different that you start to question, because you're the one that isn't narcissist, you really start to go, did I do that? Did I say that? Maybe I did upset them. And that's what keeps you back in the loop. You question yourself, you think, well, maybe I did. Maybe what I thought was helping wasn't. I'll help again. And then there you are, back in the hamster wheel of feeding that insatiable monster.
Yeah.
So it works.
It does work in some ways. Another thing that they do is they do things for you, acts of service or gifts, and then they turn that back on you. So they might give you something, and then to somebody else, they'll say, you stole that. She stole that from me, or he stole that from me, or I've been doing all this for these people. They're ungrateful. I didn't want to do it, right? And they blackmailed me into doing it. Reality does shifts. As soon as they're out of that situation and they're in another situation, they'll look at the way to get attention from that person.
I think there's always an unspoken contract with a narcissist. When you engage with a narcissist, you are entering, albeit against your will, unknowingly, into a contract where they will take and they will keep on taking. And that works if your wound is one of giving. If you get your sense of worth from people pleasing, from looking after, from caretaking, then that's going to work for a while because you're both getting your unconscious needs met. But at one point, you're probably going to realize I'm exhausted, or what I'm giving is never enough, or what I'm giving is turned round on me and I'm told that it was wrong, or that they gave to me. There's a contract which says, I will only take, you will only give. Until you realize that, it's very hard to extricate yourself from it.
Yeah, there's only one winner. There can be only one winner with a narcissist, and whatever they are giving is conditional on receiving more. So you've got to understand that.
One last symptom, which I think is quite important, is they can come across as helpless. I see this a lot with my clients. My mother definitely did this. This kind of faux dependency on you, which again can feed into an unconscious wound with someone who likes to caretake, take the lead, look after, be a leader. This fake following, dependency, helplessness, it's a role. Often with my clients, it takes the form of not being able to use the remote control, not being able to fix the dishwasher or understand modern technology, not being able to organize a trip, the train, the taxi, the car, the hiring of something. They act as though they don't get things. They can't do it, which is really difficult to see through because often they've been neglected. So they often don't have the tools that other people might, but they're playing on it. They're exaggerating it.
They don't want to work shit out. It's not in their interests to be self-sufficient and know how to do things.
Because it's feeding a need.
Yes, in their interest to keep putting their hand up and getting attention.
I mean, I think we all do this to a certain degree. I know that I do it with the children. I still can't work out the TV. I can't do it. If I absolutely had to, then I would.
Then
yes.
You should.
But I'd rather in the moment, when I've got 5 minutes, can you just help me do this? Cool. But a narcissist will never do that. They will never work it out. They will get you to spend time with them, working it out, explaining it to them, writing it down for the future. And then the very next time, I can't do it. And you're like, but I wrote it all out. Do you have that piece of paper? I can't find it. I don't understand it. Because what served them wasn't the learning. It was never about the remote control. It was never about, I can't drive. Can you give me a lift somewhere? It was never about whatever it was about, superficially. It was about the time that you invested in helping. That feeds them. And it's really
almost
important.
Everything in their life is to try and fill that black hole of need and lack of self-love that is impossible to fill.
But so many people don't get that. So many of my clients with mothers that are narcissists, and I was like this at first, think, I'll just finish the to-do list. There's the to-do list. I need to take her here. I need to book a doctor's appointment here. I need to get medicine here. I need to help her with the dishwasher because it's broken. For now, none of these things will be happening in future. Maybe not. Okay, tick them off your list. But you will see, if your list is constantly being filled again, then you know that there might be a problem. And that's what narcissists do. There is a never-ending list. We've talked quite a lot about parents and partners. Can you become a narcissist if you've had a narcissistic parent? I think this is a worry for quite a lot of people. I think secretly, another thing you talked about, Google search terms. I know that quite a few of my clients have said to me, I'm actually worried that I might be narcissist. And I've thought sometimes, am I narcissist? I spend so much time on my healing and my stuff and my patterns. It's like, well, am I being self-indulgent? Am I like a narcissist?
My take is that the odds are, if you don't do anything, you will become a narcissist. Narcissists have got very little to give. If one of your parents is a narcissist, if both your parents are narcissists, for example, which is probably quite unlikely because they wouldn't coexist together. But for example, if they were, then where are you getting anything from? So it's very likely that you're going to have the same hole, the same black hole inside of you that requires filling.
Yeah, so abuse, neglect is passed down because you can't learn how to give love if you've never received it.
Yeah. That's not to say there aren't other influences in people's lives that can give you some kind of attachment. Teachers, grandparents, your partners, your friends, whatever. You can find love. You can attach to love. You can learn different habits from different people. And you can do your own healing. So there are many examples of how you can not be a narcissist. But I said if you didn't get anything in isolation, there's a chance that you would be.
If you didn't get anything, then you're probably not going to do this work. So the fact that you're asking yourself whether you're a narcissist to a certain degree means that you're not. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
You know, that's self-reflection, because another symptom, should we say, is lack of accountability, willful blindness, and this plays into the delusion. When you're deluded, when your needs are being met, they're being served by you being in denial about the kind of person that you are, you're not going to question that. There's too much resting on it.
I think you're right. I think it's a good point. You might have some of the characteristics, or you might have had that upbringing, but a narcissist will never be able to look at themselves with any kind of self-doubt.
Or compassion.
Because there's no compassion. There's no love, so you can't offset anything against self-criticism or accountability. And that's what the other issue is with them healing just quickly, is that they've got nothing to give their inner child. They can't receive love, but also they've got no love to give their inner child.
And this comes back to the definition of narcissism, and it's from the Greek. Narcissus fell in love with his own reflection. There is no sense of other. That is why they are so self-obsessed and so selfish. There is no sense of anyone else having any needs. No one else really exists. So again, if you're worried they're a narcissist, you might well be selfish. I know that I was definitely very needy because I would say both of my parents were narcissists, actually, in different ways. Hopefully I'm not a narcissist now, but I definitely was very needy. But there's a difference between selfishness, which is, even if it's unconscious, you can be made aware of other people's needs, and you can be made aware that you have been selfish and put your needs above others. But that is still very different to someone who is not aware of anyone else. They don't even get it.
Selfishness is on a scale. Number one, I think selfishness is a positive thing if you are putting yourself first, being selfish enough to fill your cup. So you're full of love, you're full of energy, with a view to sharing that with your friends, with your family, with your children, with the rest of the world. That's a form of being selfish, but it's very functional and actually a benefit to everybody.
Yeah.
Then there's people who are needy and are selfish, but are aware of other people and are well-intentioned and are trying to get better for other people. And there's a bit of balance. And then obviously narcissists are just extreme versions of selfishness.
So going back to whether there's an effect on you of having narcissistic parents, yes, you can be very needy, perhaps quite selfish until you become aware, which means that you're not narcissistic. But you can also attract narcissism. You can attract it into your life in the form of partners. We touched on this at the beginning, but if your wound is one of people-pleasing, with your parents, you tried to get love by giving and caretaking and helping, then you're probably going to take that with you. That wound needs to be healed by someone who's going to give you that love in exchange for your people pleasing. But if you're not ready to heal that wound, you're going to attract someone that isn't going to feed that. So it's very easy to go from the one dynamic in your birth family to the same dynamic in your romantic relationship. And I know that I absolutely did that until, again, I had to grow out of it and realize what was going on. But often first relationships can be really toxic because you're literally recreating a familiar dynamic because it is familiar. Not that means it's comfortable, but it's familiar. So you know where you stand. You're used to feeling the way that you do.
It's your unconscious patterns just replaying themselves. And that person that you're in a relationship is just the mirror showing you what work you need to do. But often that is painful, like you said. You may become a narcissist or you may come into a relationship with a narcissist. They're probably the two most likely scenarios if your parents are narcissistic.
Or you'll end up with a narcissistic sibling.
Possible as well.
So yeah, you may well attract it into your life because the dynamic that you first grew up in set some kind of precedent. So it's about being aware. It's about being aware of the traits that we've talked about, whether they're present in your life, whether you're happy in a relationship. I've said this before. All relationships, apart from one with your children, should be give and take. It's not bad to receive. If you are only giving, there's something wrong. That's dysfunctional. It might be kind and it might be well looked upon by society and you're always giving, but it's dysfunctional. You need to receive. That is the nature of a relationship, other than, of course, children. So I want to make a point about children. Children can't be narcissists. In another way, they can't be labeled narcissists because they are narcissists, because they are meant to be utterly self-serving. That is what a child should be. And if your child is willful, disrespectful, inverted commas, ungrateful to a certain degree, then that's a good thing. You are creating an environment where that child can put its needs first. Why is that important? Because there's a developmental stage during which the child must put its needs first. It must learn what feels good to me, what doesn't. What are my needs? This is crucial. It doesn't mean that you can't then later fix this, which is what I do with my clients, is what I did with myself. But if you don't go through that stage of being selfish, if it's not something that's allowed in your environment because your parents are demanding all of your attention, then you grow up not knowing who you are. You don't know what your likes are. You grow up massively indecisive. You've got no sense of identity. So it's really, really important that as parents, we realize that children are going to be defiant and willful and disrespectful, inverted commas, because that's what they're meant to be. And if you've got a problem with that, if that's a trigger, then that is your misplaced attachment to authority, to boundaries, to you being right.
Yeah, definitely. There's a stage, and a lot of the men that I work with have missed out this stage. We all do it when we're young kids. Just, what do I want? Where do I want to go? And I'm going. I'm picking this up. I'm putting this in my mouth. I'm doing this. I'm finding fun, right? But then there's a stage of, okay, what feels good to me? What am I passionate about? What do I want to be doing with my time? And maybe it's not even the parents that mess this stage up. Maybe it's the education system, right? Because you're told you're not allowed to do this. You're told you have to sit down. You're told you have to learn stuff you don't want to learn. But actually, the most important lesson to come through that is, do you know who you are? Do you know what you want to do? Do you know what feels good to you? Have you got the confidence to express that? Have you got the confidence to do that? Do you deserve to do that? Right? All these things are important, and it's our job as parents to oversee that process and not knock it out of our kids because we think they're being selfish or they're making us feel uncomfortable because we don't want to do a certain thing at a certain time, or we want them to be quiet right now because it's making us feel dysregulated. Kids are meant to self-explore. They're meant to make themselves happy because we're meant to do that as adults. Yeah. We're meant to be happy. We're not meant to be pleasing everybody. We're meant to be serving others, but from a place of happiness and authenticity and purpose. That's what kids learn or unlearn generally through the process.
Totally. we were going to talk about whether it matters. Does it matter if you have a narcissist in your life, be that in the form of a parent or a partner? I would say yes, it does. It may not at the beginning. You may not realize that it matters because it may be serving your unconscious wound. However, if you've got a partner and a parent, there are two, I think they're slightly different in the ways that you can manage its impact on you once you've realized that there is an impact, that you are just giving, and that you are being drained and becoming this black hole.
First, I just want to touch on having a parent as a narcissist. We often talk about this process and how it's pretty much relevant to everybody. Nobody comes out of childhood without some kind of baggage, trauma, and it's really useful to process it and to improve your life. If one of your parents is a narcissist, then it's guaranteed you've got stuff to look at. So start the process, investigate your childhood, especially if you've got a narcissistic parent. If you've got a narcissistic partner, then again, it's likely that you've got a part to play in getting into relationship with somebody who's got nothing to give.
Yeah.
Why would anybody do that? If you were full of self-love and you didn't have any dysfunction from your own childhood, there's no way you're going to be attracted to that energy or that person. If there's any conflict with any people in our lives, then there is work to do within ourselves.
Yeah, so I would add to that, how do you manage it? When it comes to a parent, it's tricky because a lot of my clients at least want that grandparental, that's a word, influence in their children's lives. They don't want to go no contact. What I would say is limited contact, being really, really aware of boundaries, limiting literally the time and the exposure that you have to a narcissist. When it comes to things like helping out, so going back to the fixing the remote control, helping with the dishwasher that's leaking, organizing a taxi, don't forget, you are not the only person in this narcissist's life. If they have no one in their life, which sometimes they don't because they are very selfish, then that's not really your responsibility to bear. So you can hire people to help with things like this. You can set things up with banks or with supermarkets or with the doctor's surgery, because a lot of people that need this kind of help are all alone. It's not up to you to shoulder the burden of your parents' limitations. And I know that can feel quite selfish. Oh, but they're my parent. Okay, but to what degree do you want to get involved and then embroiled in the nitty-gritty of your parents' life, day-to-day life, when you have children?
Yeah.
Right? Where's your energy going to go? Is your energy going to go forwards into them believing in themselves and understanding what their needs are and their wants are, as we've just talked about? Or you can invest all of your time and energy in someone who's kind of already had that opportunity. Their life is to a certain degree over compared to your children. Your children really are dependent on you, 100%. Your parent isn't. And in terms of meeting up socially, making sure that you're watching the clock, having an out clause, knowing where you're going next, squeezing a visit in between something and something else, saying that you're only available for an hour, meeting on their terms so that you can leave, not having them hang around your house. It sounds quite strategic, but if you want to preserve that relationship and make it the very best that it can be, because that's what we're talking about here. We're not saying, oh, you're toxic. We're saying, you've got maybe toxic traits that drain me. How can I create the best possible scenario bearing that in mind?
I honestly think that no contact is the best policy with a narcissist. However, I understand that's not always possible, or that's not easy, and it's not always possible. If you're going to maintain a relationship with a narcissist, though, you have to have zero expectations of anything coming your way, and an expectation that it's going to go wrong, because it will do. Even if you're outsourcing the help are going to do it wrong, and it's going to be your fault.
It's not easy, and you have to have done the inner work. As I say, every single episode, you know when your inner child is in charge of your life, because your inner child needs other people to act in certain ways for you to feel safe. You can't do what I just said if you haven't done the work and your inner child is in charge. Because your inner child needs love, needs recognition, needs a reward for her effort, needs what a normal child needs. You need to be fully in your adult with this person, be they a partner or a parent, and keep filling your cup in other ways. Not easy. But I think it is possible if it's really, really important to you to have them in your life still.
Yes, sometimes it's necessary. Like you said, you just got to do the work to protect, not you, because as an adult, actually, you don't need anything from that person, but you need to protect, heal, integrate your inner child, and then it's possible to manage that relationship.
Yeah, and it's not just mindset work. You can't, a boundary isn't mindset. I remember very clearly at one point with my mother trying out different methods of keeping her in my life. I went no contact twice, once for a year, once for 2 years. And both times I thought, no, actually, I do want her in my life. So I brought her back in and I try out various ways of staying regulated whilst in her presence, which was pretty impossible. But one of them, before I'd done the work that I've done now, was literally, and I'm not religious, so it's not that I was attached to this in a religious sense, but it was like, I'm going to turn the other cheek. I've done quite a lot of work. I'm going to be Jesus, channel Jesus, turn the other cheek. I can take it. I'm more evolved. I've done the work. It doesn't work. It's so difficult and strong, this pull, this need for your attention, that you can't just turn the other cheek. It's impossible. And eventually, if you haven't done the work, if there's even 10% of your inner child in that dynamic, that 10% slowly starts to grow. And before you know it, you're back in that dynamic that you experienced as a child. This is about the emotional work. It's about doing the release of the pain that you felt as a child so that that child feels safe enough and grounded enough to get into the back seat. That's a big process. It's what we do with our clients, but it doesn't have to take long. The average time someone works with me is 4 months. Same with you, right? So we get quick results when you go in deep and you do the emotional and the physical work that goes hand in hand with the cognitive work. You can clear this. So, I want to give people the confidence that however extreme your childhood was, you can heal this. But it is utterly necessary if you want a narcissist in your life.
100%. For many narcissists, it's a life sentence. But if you've got a narcissist in your life, it doesn't have to be, as long as you do the work, which, like you said, you can do in just a few months.
Yeah. So to recap, are you in relation with a narcissist? Hopefully our listeners have got a good idea of some of the key traits. Narcissists need essential for their survival, attention from you in whatever form that takes. And if they don't get it, they will turn on you. They have no concept that you have needs or wants or feelings. So that, I think, is a key differential between a narcissist and someone that's selfish. Your children can never be narcissist. You can absolutely be in partnership with one, most probably because you had narcissistic parents or some kind of dynamic that you experienced when you were young, so it feels familiar. And doing the work is the key to extricating yourself, at least from the damage that's being done to you. And the work is essential if you want to have a healthy sense of self-esteem, self-love, self-identity. If what we discussed was helpful, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. For more of the same, check out my social media, The Inner Child Healing Expert, or to work with me, go to laviniabrown.com.
You can find me on andrewlynn.net or Life Coach for Dads on Instagram. We work with both individuals and couples. If there are any topics you'd like us to cover, please reach out. Thanks for listening.